Okay, let's unpack this. If you are a founder, a leader, or just someone trying to carve out growth in a market that feels perpetually crowded, you know the drill. It's a combat zone.
Hmm.
It's a daily, exhausting grind for incremental market share, constantly benchmarking the competition and dropping prices. You're trapped, and you know it.
That experience you're describing is the quintessential red ocean experience. And for most companies, especially established ones, that competitive fighting is the accepted um, fundamental reality of strategy.
Right.
But today, we want to challenge that foundational assumption completely. We are talking about shifting your entire strategic focus from combat, from the zero-sum fight against rivals, to creation.
Creation.
What if sustainable, profitable growth came not from winning a market share battle, but from building a market where the competition is entirely irrelevant?
That is the central, radical question of this deep dive. We've gone through the extensive research and methodologies behind Blue Ocean strategy, which offers a framework for market creation. When you look at strategy conventionally, it is taught that it's a zero-sum game. My company's gain is necessarily your company's loss.
Yeah, exactly.
We are all bound by the existing structure of the industry.
Precisely. That conventional view, the one that drives most strategic consultants in quarterly reports, is known as the structuralist view. It assumes the industry structure is a given, a fixed reality determined by the forces of economics, technology, and regulation, and your job is to compete fiercely within those fixed boundaries.
You analyze the five forces, you find your position, and you defend it,
Right. You defend.
which means you're always playing catch-up, always reacting.
Exactly. But Blue Ocean Strategy, or BOS, is based on the entirely different Reconstructionist view. It argues that market boundaries are not fixed. They are fluid, they are social constructs, and they can be radically reshaped and reconstructed by the actions and beliefs of the industry players themselves.
So you're saying you don't just react to the industry structure.
No, you build a new one.
So if we stop pursuing competitive advantage, the structuralist goal, the goal becomes something new, value innovation.
Correct. Value innovation is the cornerstone, and we must spend a moment on it because it's so counterintuitive. It's not about beating the competition. It's about creating an undeniable leap in value for the buyer and creating a simultaneous leap in value for your company by driving down costs.
Simultaneously. That's the key.
It is. This moves strategy from that exhausting zero-sum mindset to a truly non-zero-sum game. You expand the overall market and create new demand rather than just fighting for a contracting piece of it.
Right.
It's the dual pursuit of differentiation and low cost, which, as you said, conventional wisdom tells you is impossible.
Or at least a very difficult trade-off.
A trade-off most don't believe you can overcome, but that's the aim here.
Let's truly set the table on why staying exclusively in that red ocean is a catastrophic long-term trap. I think most managers, when they think strategy, they immediately default to the tools they were taught. Industry analysis, maybe Porter's Five Forces model, or a classic SWOT analysis.
Sure, the standard playbook.
Yeah, they are trying to match their organizational strengths to the existing market threats.
And that strategic logic is what locks them into the zero-sum trap. They are operating under the accurate assumption that in most mature or accelerating industries, supply often exceeds demand due to globalization, low-cost manufacturing, and accelerating technological adoption.
Okay.
When you focus solely on competition, you're forced to fight bitterly for market share in these contracting or stagnant waters. The red ocean gets bloodier, so to speak.
But the critical question is, why do intelligent, successful managers consistently fall into this trap even when the data on profitability is so clear? It seems almost irrational.
Because it works for a little while. They achieve incremental improvements. They see small wins.
Right. They tweak a feature, cut a cost slightly.
Exactly. They believe that if they just optimize operations, acquire one more competitor, or reduce their internal friction by 1 percentage point, they will win. This historical success of incrementalism blinds them to the necessity of market creation.
They get comfortable with the known fight.
They are trapped in the belief that the only way to succeed is to outcompete their neighbor. It becomes the default mode.
But the consequences of this exclusive focus on competitive strategy are brutal for sustained profitability and growth. You just can't keep it up forever.
Absolutely. The main consequences of operating exclusively in the red ocean are the accelerated commoditization of your products and services.
Everything starts to look the same.
Right. Which leads directly to increasing price wars and ultimately shrinking profit margins. Look across categories, from airlines to fast-moving consumer goods. brands are generally becoming more similar.
Yeah, you see it everywhere.
And as similarity increases, the customer selection process increasingly defaults to the easiest variable to compare.
Because why not? If everything else feels the same.
Exactly. Customers no longer feel there is a material functional difference between the brands, so they buy what is cheapest or most convenient. Loyalty erodes.
That shrinking room for differentiation makes the whole process unsustainable for high performance. It sounds necessary, you have to compete to survive, but it's entirely insufficient for creating sustainable, profitable growth.
The quantitative data backs this up dramatically, and this is the piece every founder doing, say, $2 million in revenue needs to internalize. It's critical.
Okay, let's hear it.
Our sources looked at the business launches of 108 companies over several years to quantify the impact of creating new market space. What they found was truly shocking in terms of resource allocation versus return.
Okay.
A massive 86% of the launches these companies undertook were simply line extensions, incremental improvement, or product tweaks within the existing red ocean market space.
86%. So the vast majority of resources, most of the effort, was focused on those incremental red ocean gains, fighting the same old battles.
That's right. And what was the payoff?
I'm guessing not great.
Those red ocean line extensions accounted for only 62% of the total revenues generated by the companies over the study period, and a mere 39% of total profits.
Wow. 39% of profits from 86% of the launches.
Think about that. Almost 90% of the strategic effort generates less than 40% of the profit.
That is abysmal leverage on effort, just spinning wheels, mostly.
Now flip the ratio. The remaining 14% of the launches, the small minority of initiatives aimed at creating true blue oceans, generated 38% of total revenues and a stunning 61% of total profits.
61% of profits from just 14% of the effort.
This is not a slight difference. It's a profound structural difference in performance. The tiny slice of pioneering initiatives, just 14%, is driving the vast majority of the profit growth that truly fuels the company's future.
That differential alone demonstrates why leaders and founders need to actively dedicate resources and mind space to market creation. It's the difference between fighting tooth and nail for pennies and opening up a brand new gold mine.
Or maybe even creating the gold mine itself.
Right.
And that imperative is only increasing today. Given the global intensification of competition, the ease with which new players can become global almost overnight due to digital communication tools and global supply chains, well, the pressure to create new demand rather than fighting over old demand has never been higher.
So the red ocean is getting redder faster.
Exactly, faster than ever before. Standing still or just making small improvements is falling behind at an accelerating rate.
Now that the data has convinced us the red ocean is insufficient and actively detrimental to future profitability, the challenge becomes how do we actually build the escape velocity? This can't just be about flashes of creativity or luck.
No, it needs to be systematic.
Right. The entire premise of this strategy is that blue ocean creation can be systematic and actionable. That brings us to the analytical tool at the heart of the Reconstructionist view, the 4 actions framework.
This framework is foundational because it forces the organization to systematically break the conventional value-cost trade-off, which is the historical impediment to market creation.
That trade-off again. High value means high cost. Low cost means just okay value.
Exactly. Traditional strategy dictates that you must choose. You can differentiate and offer high value, but that comes at a high cost. Or you can offer reasonable value at the lowest possible cost. Blue ocean strategy successfully pursues differentiation and low cost simultaneously.
Okay.
The 4 actions framework provides the scaffolding to achieve that synergy.
And those 4 actions are eliminate, reduce, raise, and create. I want to emphasize for the listener that the sequence matters here, right? We're not just brainstorming 4 ideas. We are systematically dismantling the current cost structure before we build the new value proposition.
Absolutely. The sequence is critical. The first 2 actions, eliminate and reduce, are all about cost reduction and gaining deep, often painful insight into the existing industry cost structure.
Let's start with eliminate.
Eliminate forces you to ask, which factors that the industry has long taken for granted should be eliminated entirely? These are often features or services that have been accepted as industry standard for decades, but no longer provide meaningful buyer utility, or which actively increase costs without adding value.
This sounds simple, but it requires serious courage. It means saying no to things that have always defined your category, things your competitors are still doing.
It does. It takes real strategic clarity. Then reduce asks, which factors should be reduced well below the industry standard. This reveals products or services that have become over-designed, over-engineered, or over-featured.
Feature creep.
Exactly, which increases costs for marginal or often non-existent customer gains.
Mhm.
This is where complexity hides. Managers rarely systematically look to eliminate or reduce. They're usually focused on adding features, always adding.
Right. More is better is the default.
And this focus leads directly to mounting cost structures and complex, high-friction business models.
So the eliminate reduce side attacks the existing costs, complexity, and industry sacred cows. Once we have optimized our cost base, we shift to building the superior buyer value with raise and create.
Exactly. Now you're building on a more efficient foundation. Raise pushes you to uncover and eliminate the compromises your industry forces customers to make. Which factors should be raised well above the industry standard?
Okay, so fixing pain points.
Yes. This is a targeted investment in the factors that truly matter to the buyer, often fixing things the industry has passively forced buyers to tolerate for years.
And create is the true innovation step, the big leap.
This is the moment of divergence. Create asks, which new factors should the industry create that it has never offered? This action discovers entirely new sources of buyer value and fundamentally shifts the industry's strategic pricing, often by appealing to non-customers we talked about earlier.
Connecting back to the non-customers.
Yes, the combination of eliminate, removing cost, and create, adding new non-traditional value, is what prompts companies to change the competitive factors themselves, rendering the existing rules of competition irrelevant.
To make this actionable for our founders, let's use the textbook example. Cirque du Soleil. They systematically applied the eliminate, reduce, raise, create framework to fundamentally redefine the circus, which at the time was a dying industry, right?
Cirque du Soleil is the perfect model of a successful blue ocean move that achieved differentiation at a low cost by reconstructing elements across the traditional circus and the high-end theater industries. Traditional circuses like Ringling Bros competed heavily on three specific high-cost factors:
Okay, what were they?
expensive animal acts, celebrity star performers, and the multi-ring format meant to cram maximum activity into one show. Very chaotic.
Okay, so let's run the ERC framework on that structure. Eliminate first.
They started with eliminate. The eliminated animal acts, which is a massive cost driver, not just the cost of buying the animals, but the training, veterinary care, housing, and complex logistical transportation requirements globally. Huge cost savings there.
And also addressed growing public discomfort. Right.
Absolutely. A key factor.
Ah.
Critically, they also eliminated the celebrity star performers whose bargaining power drove up payroll, and they eliminated aisle concession sales, the traditional revenue generator of the low-end circus experience. Popcorn and cheap toys.
Hold on. If I'm a founder doing $2 million in revenue and I eliminate something that has historically brought in revenue like those concessions or the most popular acts, I risk going bankrupt while I wait for the new model to take hold. How do I manage that risk of the revenue gap? That sounds terrifying.
That's the founder's anxiety, and it's real. It highlights why the raise and create steps must be radically compelling. You can only eliminate traditional revenue streams if you're confident your new value proposition is so fundamentally superior and attractive to a new, broader audience that it offsets the traditional losses instantly or very quickly.
Okay, so the new value has to be massive.
It has to be a leap. For Cirque, the eliminated factors, animal thrills, star names, were replaced by a massive raise in artistic quality.
Okay, raise. What did they raise?
They raised the sophistication and artistic integrity well above industry standards. They borrowed elements from adult theater, ballet, opera, and sophisticated musical production. They focused the audience's attention on a single ring to create intimacy and storytelling focus, unlike the three-ring chaos.
More like theater.
Exactly. This increased the elegance, the unique music, the set design, and the overall artistic complexity of the performance. It felt premium.
And then the create element that completely defined the new market space. What did they create that was totally new?
They created a new narrative theme. Instead of disjointed acts, they had an abstract, unifying storyline, spiritual themes, and a highly artistic, sophisticated tent environment that felt less like a show for children and more like sophisticated, high-culture entertainment for adults and corporate clients.
Appealing to a different audience, or at least a broader one.
Absolutely. By borrowing from high-end theater and applying it to a traditional circus format, they broke the existing best practice rules and created a new, uncontested market space. The result was differentiation at a low cost, the holy grail of value innovation.
Better and cheaper to produce. relatively speaking.
Exactly. They simultaneously generated premium ticket prices and reduced their operating expenses drastically by cutting those high-cost traditional elements. A true blue ocean.
That brings us to the biggest mental hurdle for the founder. If I'm supposed to stop focusing on my rivals and stop benchmarking, where do I start looking for these uncontested spaces? What is the strategic focus or the very first step in the actual exploration? Feels a bit like staring into the void.
It can feel that way initially. The strategic focus must shift entirely to non-customers and looking across conventional industry boundaries. To maximize the potential size of a blue ocean, stop concentrating only on your existing customers.
Why not existing customers? They're the ones paying the bills now.
Because existing customers are already served, they will give you feedback on incremental improvements, not disruptive ones. They'll ask for a slightly better version of what you already have.
Okay.
You need to look for patterns and commonalities in what different groups of non-customers value and, crucially, why they're avoiding your product or industry altogether. That's where the big insights lie.
The sources break these non-customers down into 3 useful tiers for analysis. Let's look at the first 2, which are the most critical for finding these opportunities.
Okay, the first tier are the soon-to-be non-customers. These are people who currently use your offerings minimally, but they are clearly unhappy, they're dissatisfied.
Sitting on the edge.
Exactly. They are actively searching for better alternatives and are ready to jump ship the moment a viable option appears. Their presence signals a deep, stagnant dissatisfaction in the market. They're practically telling you there's a problem to solve.
The example of Pret a Manger perfectly illustrates tapping into that restless first tier. How did they do that?
Precisely. Before Pret, in European city centers, professionals were the first tier for lunch. They were using existing lunch options minimally. Sit-down restaurants were too slow and expensive for a weekday lunch.
Took too long.
And traditional fast food was quick, but perceived as unhealthy and low quality. So these professionals were searching for a solution that balanced speed, health, and quality. They were stuck.
So Pret a Manger didn't compete head-on with the existing sandwich shops or fast food chains.
No. They found the commonality across these soon-to-be non-customers, which was the need for high-quality, fresh, healthy, and fast food at a reasonable price. It seems obvious now, but wasn't then. They delivered restaurant-quality sandwiches made fresh every day, available at speed, and in a sleek, transparently clean setting. They unlocked that huge, untapped demand from professionals who were about to become non-customers of the whole category.
They created a new blue ocean in fast, fresh food by shifting their focus from competing on speed, like McDonald's, to competing on freshness and quality at speed.
Exactly, a crucial reconstruction.
Now, the second tier represents an even larger potential market of opportunity, the refusing non-customers. Who are these people?
These are individuals or businesses who consciously choose not to use the market offering because they find it unacceptable, functionally flawed, or fundamentally too expensive. They've actively rejected the current option.
So they're not even dabbling, they're out.
Right. Their needs are currently dealt with by other, often inferior or cumbersome means, or simply ignored entirely. They've decided the industry has nothing for them.
JCDecaux and outdoor advertising is a clear example of solving a refusing customer's problem. What was the refusal there?
Before JCDecaux created the concept of street furniture advertising, the industry was dominated by large billboards placed on city outskirts or panels on moving transport, like buses.
Okay.
Many sophisticated urban advertisers refused this market because the location was poor for pedestrian traffic and the visibility time was limited. The ads just weren't effective for their goals.
So they refused the whole category.
JCDecaux looked at why those customers were refusing: the lack of high visibility, pedestrian accessible locations, and offered municipal services like bus shelters, automated toilets, in exchange for the right to place advertising panels on them, right in the city center.
Ah, so they created prime locations by providing a service. Clever.
They focused on solving the advertiser's core refusal problem: location and visibility, by integrating the advertising into the infrastructure itself.
They tapped into a mass of refusers by solving their core problem of finding high dwell time ad space in dense urban centers.
Exactly. This focus away from existing customers and toward non-customers is the internal compass for blue ocean creation. It points you toward unmet needs and frustrations.
Beyond non-customers, the strategic path requires founders to look across alternative industries. Customers don't analyze your industry in a vacuum. They implicitly weigh alternatives all the time, even if they don't think about it that way.
This is crucial. When you need to transport yourself, you consider driving, taking the bus, or flying. If you need 2 hours of self-indulgence, you might choose a movie, a massage, or reading a new book at a cafe. Completely different industries, but serving a similar need.
Right.
Sellers rarely consciously think about why buyers trade across these fundamentally different alternative industries. But the space between those alternatives provides massive blue ocean opportunities.
NetJets is the ultimate illustration of this, looking across commercial first class and the traditional full private jet ownership industry. They asked why someone would trade a business flight for owning a plane, or vice versa.
The core question NetJets asked was about the key trade-offs. Buyers choose private jet ownership for speed, point-to-point convenience, and maximum productivity. Huge advantages.
Fly anywhere, anytime.
Pretty much. They can fly into thousands of smaller regional airports, dramatically cutting total travel time and avoiding major airport hassle. However, they intensely hated the multi-million-dollar capital cost, maintaining dedicated flight departments and being the enormous expense of deadhead costs.
The empty flights.
The empty flights positioning the plane for the next owner. Hugely expensive and inefficient.
So NetJets eliminated the high fixed costs associated with full ownership, the massive purchase price, and dedicated flight department by offering fractional ownership.
Right. Share the plane, share the cost, and they combine the convenience factors of private jets with accessibility. The fractional ownership model allows them to use complex algorithms to fill empty legs, thus drastically reducing the painful deadhead cost that haunted traditional private jet operators.
Using technology to solve that deadhead problem.
Precisely. By delivering the decisive advantages of both alternatives, the speed and convenience of private jets, and a fraction of the cost model, they created fractional jet ownership. They eliminated hassle and created productivity.
Appealing to a whole new mass of executives who would never and could never fully own a plane, but wanted something better than first class.
Exactly. A massive blue ocean unlocked by looking across alternatives.
Before executing any of these brilliant, expensive ideas, the sources emphasize they must pass a rigorous strategic sequence test. Buyer utility, price, cost, adoption. This is the viability checklist, right? You can't skip a step.
Absolutely vital. If you fail one step, the whole initiative is vulnerable. First, does the idea offer exceptional buyer utility? Is it genuinely useful and solves a major pain point? This is where you use analytical tools like the buyer utility map to ensure you've removed the greatest blocks to utility across the entire buyer experience cycle.
Not just the product itself, but buying it, using it, maintaining it.
The whole journey. Second, have you set the right strategic price to quickly capture the mass of target buyers? Is it accessible to the market you want to create?
Okay.
Third, can you deliver the offering at the target cost while still earning a healthy profit margin? If not, your brilliant idea isn't a business. You must innovate your business model or scrap the idea entirely. Profitability matters.
And finally, that crucial last step, adoption. This is where many great ideas perish, isn't it? Even if the numbers work.
Exactly. Adoption hurdles are key because an unbeatable business model still threatens the status quo and can provoke fear and resistance among employees, partners, and sometimes even the general public. You must proactively address resistance before plowing ahead. Otherwise, you have a perfect strategy on paper that nobody's willing to execute. It just sits there.
We've covered the success stories, which are compelling, but it's crucial for any founder to understand when a blue ocean strategy, even a brilliant one that passes the viability test, can fail. Let's talk about failure points, starting with execution alignment. Things going wrong after the big idea.
Failures often occur not at the point of conceptual innovation, but at the point of execution alignment with the culture or the brand promise. The Tata Nano case provides one of the most sobering and fascinating lessons in missing necessary alignment.
Tata Motors set out to reconstruct the passenger car market and the two-wheeler market in India, aiming to offer safe, comfortable, all-weather transportation at a strategic price point that directly competed with the premium two-wheelers like scooters and motorcycles.
Right, a noble goal with huge potential impact, and the technical execution was flawless. The Nano delivered a compelling value proposition and, critically, a compelling proposition for Tata.
They hit the cost targets.
Oh, yes. It achieved its low cost through massive cost innovation, a two-cylinder rear aluminum engine for lightness, dramatically simplified components, and a modular design approach. They absolutely hit the strategic price target, which should have unlocked a mass market of Indian families seeking to upgrade from crowded, dangerous motorbikes.
Okay, so if the utility, price, and cost were all aligned, where did the plan break down? This should have been the greatest market success story of the 21st century. It had all the ingredients.
It broke down on the people proposition and suffered from a devastating brand barrier. The management team, in their pursuit of the lowest cost structure, branded the Nano as the cheapest car in the world.
Oof, cheapest.
That positioning conflicted severely with the core emotional value the product was supposed to deliver.
The emotional value was aspirational, wasn't it? Moving up in the world.
Precisely. For the millions of Indian families moving from a motorbike to a car, this purchase was not merely transportation. It was a profound status symbol. It represented the gift of dreams or security for their family, a massive step up.
And calling it the cheapest.
When you brand something, especially a family asset like a car, as the cheapest, it undermines that aspirational emotional value and carries a stigma. Customers didn't want their neighbors to know they bought the cheapest vehicle. It felt, well, cheap.
So the marketing message killed the aspiration.
Essentially, yes. A blue ocean move, no matter how brilliantly designed on the cost and utility front, without brand clarity, sensitivity, or effective emotional positioning, is extremely vulnerable. The message has to match the underlying value proposition in the customer's mind.
Beyond brand alignment, many internal strategy execution failures come from what the sources call a cognitive hurdle, outsourcing the eyes. What does that mean?
This is a pervasive trap, especially for executives who rise high in large organizations, but it happens to busy founders too. Managers start relying almost exclusively on reports, numbers, and aggregated data provided by subordinates who are often several steps removed from the market reality.
They stop looking for themselves.
They outsource their eyes. Instead of seeing the subject for themselves, like an artist must observe their subject directly, you lose the texture, the nuance. The visual exploration step of strategy creation demands managers get face-to-face with non-customers and the reality of their product's use or non-use. See it happen. Relying only on abstract numbers and reports leads to focusing on incremental solutions, the settler businesses we'll talk about, because numbers inherently support optimization, not radical creation. They smooth out the rough edges where innovation hides.
For the $2 million founder, outsourcing the eyes might look like relying solely on Google Analytics for customer needs, rather than spending a day watching how people actually fail to use their software or interviewing the person who chose the competitor down the street. Getting out there.
Exactly. It's substituting real, messy observation for clean, often sterile data. You must leave the office and observe the moment of non-use, the moment of frustration. That's where the insights are.
Now let's acknowledge that every blue ocean will eventually be imitated and turn red. It's inevitable, isn't it? Ford Model T was imitated by GM, NetJets now has imitators, and Cirque du Soleil has inspired thousands of smaller imitators. Success is not static.
True. And a crucial point. Institutionalizing BOS requires dynamic renewal, which means leaders must manage a portfolio balance, not just a single strategic move. You can't rest on one success.
Portfolio.
The sources define 3 types of businesses that coexist in a company's portfolio.
Okay.
First, settlers. These are the Me Too businesses. They mimic the competition. They're often cash generators today because they are efficient operators in the red ocean, but they offer little potential for future growth because they are locked in competitive benchmarking. They're just defending turf.
Okay, settlers, what's next?
Second, migrators.
Migrators.
Migrators offer improved value relative to the current industry norm, but they don't fundamentally alter the basic shape of the industry's value curve. They are better, maybe faster or cheaper, but not fundamentally different. They represent incremental improvement over the settlers.
Still in the same basic game.
Pretty much. Third, and most vital, are pioneers. These are the true value innovations, the blue ocean creations, like Salesforce.com's initial SaaS offering or eBay's original business model. These are the businesses with high growth potential and the power to redefine your brand and the market itself.
So settlers, migrators, pioneers. The objective for senior executives and any founder should be to shift their future portfolio toward pioneers. That's where the real growth is.
That's the path to profitable, sustainable growth.
Yeah.
You need a healthy balance. Cash-generating settlers for today's profits, maybe some migrators extending value, but you need pioneers for tomorrow's growth and brand value building.
And you need a pipeline.
Absolutely. As your current pioneers start becoming migrators due to rising competition and imitation, you must be ready to launch a new blue ocean initiative. This is a continuous cycle of creation, not a one-off event, always looking for the next blue ocean.
Let's bring it back to the tactical. If I'm a founder doing $2 million in revenue, tired of the pricing mud with rivals, feeling stuck in that red ocean, and I need to start today, what is the immediate, actionable first step, stripped of corporate jargon? Where do I begin this afternoon?
Okay, action 1. Stop benchmarking rivals. Seriously,
Yeah.
just stop. Forget matching industry best practices for a while.
Easier said than done, maybe, but okay.
Your focus should not be on your competitors' features, pricing, or marketing. It needs to be entirely on reconstructing market boundaries by looking outward. Who is avoiding your industry, and why are they trading across alternative industries? Go talk to them.
So practically,
Start by talking to 5 people who should be your customer but are not. Find out why they aren't buying from you or anyone in your space. What are they doing instead?
okay, talk to non-customers. Action 1. Then, once we have that outward direction, we need tools to define the new strategy, and that leads us to the strategy canvas.
Right. Action 2. Define value through the buyer's eyes using the strategy canvas. This tool is essential for visualizing where your industry is currently competing and where you need to diverge.
How does it work?
You plot the industry's current competitive factors, the things everyone competes on a horizontal axis, and the offering level, low to high, on the vertical axis. You must draw both the average industry value curve, showing what everyone else does, and your own proposed curve, showing how you'll be different.
And a winning blue ocean strategy must possess 3 visual qualities on the canvas, right? What are they?
First, focus.
What does focus look like on the canvas?
Focus means that the company is clearly investing heavily in a select few key differentiating factors, and crucially, avoiding complexity and high costs by trying to be all things to all people. If your value curve is high across all factors, you lack focus, and your cost structure will be high. You've failed value innovation before you even start.
You're spreading yourself too thin.
Exactly. Second, divergence.
Standing out.
The value curve must stand dramatically apart from the competition. It should not look like a parallel curve, slightly higher or slightly lower than the industry average. If your curve is mostly overlapping or mirroring the average industry curve, your strategy is merely a me too, a migrator at best.
No, not a pioneer.
Not a pioneer. True pioneers show an entirely different shape on the canvas, a different profile of value.
And the third quality, which links the internal canvas to the external market, is a compelling tagline.
Yes. The tagline must be a clear, honest statement that summarizes the key differences in your value curve in a way that speaks directly to the market and makes the commercial viability obvious. It has to resonate.
Can you give an example?
For example, if you can't describe your strategy in a simple, compelling tagline that speaks to buyers like Southwest's early rec, the speed of air travel at the price of a car, it's probably too internally driven, too complex, lacking commercial potential. It needs to be instantly understandable.
Okay. Focus, divergence, compelling tagline on the strategy canvas. Once the canvas is drawn, we systematically move to the framework we discussed earlier. The eliminate, reduce, raise, create grid.
Action 3. Use the grid. Don't skip the hard parts. This grid forces companies to generate the actual tactical steps to create that new divergent value curve mapped out on the canvas. Critically, for the founder with limited resources, you must systematically apply the eliminate reduce side before the raise create side.
Let's underscore that again. Why is that sequence eliminate or reduce first so non-negotiable? Why start with cutting?
Because that is the only path to breaking the value cost trade-off. The eliminate and reduce actions are where you gain insight into how to drop your cost structure relative to competitors or relative to the cost of your current feature set. You free up resources and simplify. If you only focus on raising and creating first, you will inevitably over-engineer products, add complexity, and drive up costs, resulting in a niche, expensive offering that is easily marginalized. A common plight for companies attempting to escape the red ocean without the necessary financial discipline. You build something great nobody can afford or that doesn't make money.
Right, you need the cost savings to fund the new value creation affordably.
Precisely.
Finally, we talked about the adoption hurdle. Even the best designed strategy fails if people won't execute it. How does a small founder tackle this internal friction, maybe with a team of 10 people?
This is where execution often stalls, even in small teams. When implementing a disruptive change, for example, removing a legacy feature that employees loved, or introducing a new system that reduces the perceived autonomy of the sales team, you must proactively address the fears and concerns of your stakeholders. Don't ignore the human element.
So how do you do that effectively?
To secure the voluntary cooperation needed for sustained execution, you must employ fair process. Fair process involves 3 critical E principles that provide intellectual and emotional recognition for your team: engagement, explanation, and expectation clarity.
Okay, engagement, explanation, expectation, clarity. Let's put this into a relatable context. Say a B2B software company implements a new blue ocean strategy that requires the sales team to focus entirely on consultative selling, eliminating the old high volume, low margin product lines. The sales team resists because they fear for their commissions. How does fair process apply?
Okay. Engagement means involving the key members of the sales team in the decisions that affect them, not just announcing the change from on high. Ask for their input.
How?
Their ideas on how the new strategy will be implemented, how the compensation structure might transition fairly, and what the operational risks are must be sought out and genuinely valued. You treat them with intellectual recognition, they often know things you don't.
Okay, get their input, then explanation.
Explanation means ensuring everyone understands why the old strategy was unsustainable. Show them the red ocean data, the shrinking margins, and why the new strategy is vital for long-term survival and their own future success. This makes them confident that managers acted impartially and in the company's best interest, not just arbitrarily.
Makes sense. And expectation clarity.
Expectation clarity means managers clearly and immediately state the new rules of the game. What are the new goals? What are the new targets for the consultative sales approach? How will success be measured? And who is responsible for what? You define the boundaries of the new playing field so there's no ambiguity.
Got it.
When people feel intellectually and emotionally recognized through this structured process, they trust the outcome and commit to execution. Even if they personally preferred the status quo initially, they feel heard and respected.
We've traveled from the bloody red ocean of exhausting competition through the systematic playbook of value innovation and into the uncontested blue ocean of market creation. The fundamental takeaway here, it seems, is that sustainable, profitable growth demands that we challenge the paralyzing notion that market boundaries are fixed.
They aren't fixed.
They are constructs, and they can be rebuilt. It's a mindset shift as much as anything.
It really is. And if we look across industry history, from the early days of computers to the modern digital era, a critical pattern emerges that founders must internalize to avoid analysis paralysis or thinking this is only for huge tech breakthroughs.
Okay, what's the pattern?
The creation of blue oceans is often not about raw technology innovation per se, even in high-tech industries. Instead, it is fundamentally about linking existing or simplifying technology to what buyers truly value.
So it's not always about inventing something brand new technologically.
Not at all. It wasn't about building a faster engine initially for Ford. It was about building a car that could be bought by the average worker using existing assembly line tech in a new way, Ford Model T.
Right.
It wasn't about inventing better servers for Salesforce initially. It was about simplifying data access and CRM delivery into the cloud using existing internet technology, making it accessible.
So the innovation is often in the value delivery, the business model, the simplification.
Exactly. The complexity exists not necessarily in the core technology, but in the industry's historical approach to delivering value, the features, the channels, the pricing. So the provocative question for you, the listener, today is this. What fundamental factor in your industry do you believe buyers value highly? Maybe it's safety, convenience, speed, quality, simplicity, but which the industry currently delivers with unnecessary complexity and massive unnecessary cost.
Where is the friction and the overserving?
Precisely. Pinpointing and simplifying that one factor, making it accessible or easy in a way no one else does, could be your entry point into uncontested market space. That could be your blue ocean.